Hello, and welcome to episode 19 of the Sarah Seams podcast. My name is Sarah. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, where I live with my partner Troy and our cats Alex and Moo, who may make an appearance today, who knows. This is my little corner of the internet where I share all about my crafty projects, mostly knitting, but today I have knitting, crochet, and sewing to share with you. And it's been about 2.5 weeks since my last episode. I was really hoping to record over the weekend, but unfortunately I was sick. I was afraid it was COVID. A lot of my coworkers had COVID. It was not. I think it was just some pretty intense seasonal allergies, but thankfully I am feeling better now. And today is Tuesday, August 29th. I can't believe it's almost September already. It's so crazy to me. But I'm just gonna jump right in because I'm feeling the fall feels and I have a lot of exciting works in progress and finished objects to share with you. So I'm gonna start with what I'm wearing, which is a Zadie jumpsuit. So this is my second Zadie jumpsuit. I'll put a video in of me wearing the first version I made. And if you're interested in hearing more about this, I talked a lot about it in episode 15, and I'll put a card for that up here. If you're interested in that video, this is a really great pattern. I really love it. It is available up to a 56-inch bust and a 57-inch hip. I made size 18 on top and graded to size 22 on the bottom. And yeah, so I'm not really going to show this one too much. This is just a navy version. So I have a black one. Well, I had a black one. I'll tell you more about that in a second, but I made the black one first. And this is a navy Brussels washer linen. And this is a great version. I kind of want to make a long sleeve version, maybe for fall too, because the fit is just really great. So I do have a bit of an unfortunate update about the black version that I made. So I made that version as kind of like a hopefully wearable muslin for this version that I'm wearing now. And it turned out really great. The only adjustment I made between the two versions was to raise the waistline about an inch from the black version to this version. And now this one fits perfectly. But I wanted a more affordable fabric for the black version. So I went to Joann's and I bought some of their like kind of heavier weight linen rayon blend fabric that they have. And I will show you. I have my black version here. So it's got a really nice weight to it. It's this kind of slubby black linen. And I really liked wearing it, but I wore this like 3 times maybe and washed it. And it has completely disintegrated. So I think at the time I was like, oh, this is a great fabric. I really recommend it. But I can no longer like support that recommendation because look at the waistband seam. So this is where the top meets the pants. And that is what it looked like coming out of the washing machine. It just totally disintegrated and is beyond saving. Normally I would try to mend something like this, but it's not just in one place. It's almost like it's on the other side as well. And I really don't understand why this happened. Like I finished all of my seams as I normally do, and I've never had this issue before. So I think it has to be this fabric, and it's just a fairly open weave. And I think it doesn't hold up well to laundering. So I really can't recommend this fabric anymore. But I'm sad because I really loved having the black Zadie. So I feel like I'm gonna have to make another one now that's black. So the navy one's great, but black is like a staple. So that was kind of a bummer. Just wanted to give you all that update. I will be keeping the rest of the fabric to maybe use in a quilt or something, but to be honest, I'm kind of scared to use it now that I know that it just falls apart in the wash. So I don't exactly know what I'm gonna do with that. It's over there for now. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. And now I'll jump into finished objects. So I have one other sewing finished object, and it is something I've also made a million of before. It's another Maeve skirt. Here it is. I'm just gonna show it on the hanger. It has an elasticated waistband, these cute little ties, and then it has 2 tiers of gathered skirt. And the fabric is this super pretty linen from Blackbird Fabrics. It's their stonewashed gingham linen, and the colorway is Potter's Wheel. So it's just these really pretty soft browns. And yeah, I have like 10 of these. It's probably my most made pattern. I just find them so comfortable and easy to wear. So it's just adding another one to the collection. Nothing too exciting, just like a really great basic. And this pattern, like I said, is by True Bias. I made the size 18. It is available up to a 47-inch hip, but it's a 55-inch hip finished. So depending on how much, you know, obviously the intended ease, I would love to see this pattern available in more sizes. The intended ease, it's meant to be in like a gathered flouncy skirt. So if you're closer to that 55-inch hip, it's not going to fit you the way that it should. So there's a little wiggle room there, but I'd love to see this expanded up to a 60-inch hip before the ease is added in. But yeah, that's another great basic added to the wardrobe. And now I have 2 knitting finished objects. So I'll do socks first. I always do socks first. I'm participating in Sari Nordland's Summer Sock Knit Along, which is something she does every year. The basic idea is that you take 3 skeins of yarn and you make 4 pairs of socks. So I just finished the pair for August, and those are the Summer Girl socks. So here they are. They're super cute. They have this real big ruffle around the ankle, and then the foot it's basically just a vanilla sock from there. So I did finish both of them. Oh, here comes Moo. Come here, Moo. Okay, he's not sure. All right, so I'm so sorry, I cannot remember. I bought this yarn when I was in Savannah, Georgia at a little local yarn shop there, but I cannot remember what it was called, and I do not have the ball band anymore, so I'm being a bad podcaster. But it's this really pretty tonal, like dark red. My lighting's a little bit off today. I'm sorry about that. It's kind of overcast, so I've got a little bit of artificial light going on, but yeah, you can see, so you start with a provisional cast on and you knit a little bit of ribbing inside the band. Then the outside is stockinette. You knit the vanilla sock. It has a heel flap and gusset. And then you go back and pick up stitches and knit the ruffle. I think that these look very cute. I will never knit them again because this ruffle is so intense. It's like insane. I mean, at one point there's like almost 300 stitches in this ruffle. It's very impactful. Like, it's a really cute, dramatic ruffle, but I feel like Sari I've knit her Midsummer Dancer socks before, which have, she has the Midsummer Dancer and the Midnight Dancer. The Midnight Dancer is basically a vanilla sock, but it has a little ruffle around the top edge. And the Midsummer Dancer version just is the same, but it has eyelets, lace throughout. And those are much more enjoyable to knit, in my opinion. You don't get the same effect with the little cuff, and the ruffle is not as dramatic, but I feel like they are more enjoyable to knit. And these are very top heavy. I actually haven't worn them yet, but I will be interested to see how they stay up. So yeah, I would just, next time if I want a ruffly sock, I would do Midnight Dancer or Midsummer Dancer. I do like how they turned out. They just were kind of intense to knit. It was like, oh, I'm knitting a super fun vanilla sock, and then it was like, oh, the ruffle from, you know, I want to say the H word, but I'm trying not to swear on here. I'm trying to be good and not swear on the podcast. Anyways, so yeah, those are the Summer Girl socks. And we have 1 more pair of socks left in the knit along, and the pattern's coming out on September 1st. So just a couple more days. Very excited. It looks like it's gonna be a like scrappy striped sock with little lace sections. I have almost none of this yarn left because I had actually used a little bit of it in my floral mini shawl that I test knit earlier in the summer. And so I'm gonna have to like improvise a little bit for the last pair. I might have to shorten them, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, almost done with the knit along, and once I finish all 4 pairs, I'll be sure to show them to you all together as a collection before I enter them for the cow prizes. So yeah, Summer Girl socks by Sari Nordland. And my last finished object is a hat. And I think last podcast I had just barely started this. Like, I think I just had the ribbing. but I finished it the next day. It's a really quick, super fun knit, and I kind of want to make another one. And it's the Alpine Bloom hat by Caitlin Hunter. So I was able to use leftovers from my Alpine Bloom tee to make the hat, and I had just enough of the main color yarn. I had like a couple of yards left, and I think it turned out really good. I just love this color work combo. Like I said, the hat's super quick and easy to knit. I added a little pom made from my contrast color, which I think is a nice touch. I did knit slightly less ribbing than the pattern called for because I knew I was going to be playing yarn chicken with that color. I think it called for 1 1/4 inches or 1 1/2, and I did 1 1/4, so just slightly less, and I think it still really works. I didn't do a full like wet block of this yet. I still might. I feel like on the camera you're seeing a little bit more of the puckering than you even notice in real life. I just did a little bit of a steam block on it because I feel like Moo's like snuffling about in the background. I'm sorry if you hear weird noises. I just feel like sometimes when I block my hats, they don't fit as well. And I'm planning to give this as a gift for Christmas probably, so I would just, if like whoever I end up giving it to needs it to be a little bit roomier, maybe then we block it. I don't know. I just kind of want it to look nice for now, which like I said, I feel like you don't even notice that little bit of puckering as much. And I'm sure if I wet blocked it, that would block out. But yeah, I just love it. I think I'm definitely going to make another one as a gift, or maybe make one for myself. But yeah, I highly recommend it. I just am obsessed with this color work pattern, and I love the tee. I just wore it for the first time the other day to work, and I got a lot of compliments on it, which was really nice. And should I wear the hat with the sweater? No, that would be too much. But anyways, yes, Alpine Bloom hat by Caitlin Hunter. I think it comes in 3 sizes, and this is size 2, which is the adult small medium. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Like I said, I basically knit this in like 2 days. So quick, good gift knit if you have some scraps of like spin cycle or, oh yeah, I guess I should say what the yarns are. These ones I know. So the main color is Kelborn Woolen's Camper Base in the color Driftwood Heather. And the contrast color is Primrose Yarn Co. Homestead Sport Base in the color Spacesuit. So yeah, if you have any leftovers in like sport weight yarns, I definitely recommend making one of these little guys. I love the pom-pom. All right, that is it for finished objects. I have 6 whips to share with you today. So let me grab those and we will start there. Okay, I am so excited about all of my whips right now. I have been knitting like a crazy person the past couple of weeks, especially last weekend when I thought I was sick. I didn't go out and do anything. And so I just sat around and knit for like 2 entire days, which was awesome. So let me show you what I'm working on. I actually don't have any socks that I'm going to show you today. I have one pair, all the frills socks that I've been working on that are like my car project, my car knitting, but I haven't really worked on them. So is this the first time ever I don't have any sock whips? So weird. But I am going to be starting that last pair of the summer sock knit along socks in a couple of days. So I'm just cooling it on socks for this week. So my first whip that I want to show you is a hat. So I'm knitting hats for 2 of my coworkers for Christmas. And I'm knitting them both the Robin Beanie by Sari Nordland, which is a 2x2 hat with a folded over brim. And I just started on this second one. I finished the first one. I shared it a couple of episodes ago, and I just have finished the crown increases and started knitting the main part of the hat. And this is just this super, super hot pink that I love so much. And this is actually leftover yarn from my Linto sweater. Oh, no, hey, so he's trying to jump up on my desk. Hey, no, I'll be right back. Okay, Moo's making a rare appearance. He doesn't like to be picked up, but he likes to be in my business. So that's about as much as we're gonna get of him today. Okay, so as I was saying, I am knitting this hat in leftover yarns from my second Linto. And the yarns are Kelborn Woolen's Perennial, which is like their sock yarn in the color pink, and that's this. And Pearl Soho Tussock, which is their mohair base in the color Pink Joy, which is this. And so I've worn my pink linto to work a couple of times, and my coworker is, every single time I wear it, is like, I love that color. So I'm making her a hat with the leftover colors from that sweater, because I know she's gonna love it. So I don't have too much to show on this yet, but you can see those really pretty increases. And now it's just knitting the body, and that's it. So I'm sure that'll just be like my either a travel project or a kind of like pick up and go project when I just need something easy to work on that I don't really have to think about. And the pink hat reminds me of a topic I just wanted to touch on today, and that is the idea of trends. So when I first was making the pink linto, I did a little segment on that episode all about the trend of that hot pink color and like where it came from and the runway inspiration and what was inspiring it in the market, etc. And I recently had a comment from a lovely viewer, I think your name is Jean Andrews, and the comment has mysteriously disappeared. I was responding to it, and then the comment itself and my response were both deleted, and I can't find them. So Jean, I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened to your comment, but Jean was asking if, since I work in the fashion design industry and I have this background, if I could share more about trends on the podcast. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that for a second. So yes, I can for sure. I definitely, things like that, if there's like huge cultural trends or like things that, you know, like that color, I think because of the Barbie movie and like bigger elements, it was just everywhere, and you couldn't ignore it, which I think that's like an obvious trend. And I'm happy to, like, if I'm doing anything, making anything that is because it's a trend that I'm interested in, I will of course be happy to share that with all of you. However, I did just want to talk about the idea of trends and trendiness, because I feel like what's so interesting about fashion right now is that it's much more about personal style than it's ever been and less about trends. So, you know, in the 1900s, every decade had this like really specific style that like almost anyone would recognize. You know, like if you see something from the 60s, you're gonna recognize it as a 60s garment. If you see bell bottoms, you're gonna know that was like late 60s, early 70s. If you see shoulder pads, you're like, oh, that's 80s. Whereas now with like the rise of the internet and social media, I think the trends have become so fast generally that they are almost meaningless. You know, it's almost impossible to keep up with every trend. And because of that, I think people are more than ever embracing their own sense of personal style, which I think is amazing. So I definitely do get caught up in trends from time to time, and I'll be happy to share those with you, especially if it's colors or design details, and there's even one later today I was going to touch on. But overall, I think, you know, I think it's cool to cultivate a personal style more than following a trend, which is what I try to do. And my design work is specifically in intimates, and those trends tend to be, you know, the trends for bras and underwear tend to be very different from the trends for women's wear, ready to wear, etc. So I don't know that my work is that directly applicable to like knitwear or sewing trends. But when I do see wider, like industry-wide or cultural trends, I will definitely try to share those with all of you. But I just wanted to kind of give you my 2 cents about trendiness and trends in fashion. And I'm curious what you all think. Like, do you love to follow every new trend? Like, do you follow that very closely? Do you not follow it at all? Is that something you do want to see more of from me or not? Like, please let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. But with that said, I'll move on to my next whip, which is the Tesselated Pullover by Andrea Mowry. And this is her Rhinebeck Rhinebeck sweater for this year. I'll put a picture in here. I am unfortunately not going to Rhinebeck this year, but my local yarn store is hosting a like Rhinebeck, not Rhinebeck knit along. So we're all knitting something special, and then we'll get together the weekend of Rhinebeck here and have like a little event. And yeah, so let me show you what I have. I think last time I had finished the body, maybe, and I have now finished the front. So here's where I had gotten to last time, and I've now finished the front panel. It's a little hard to show because everything's on like cords right now, but yeah, here's the front. You can see the color changing yarn. So yeah, this is the little front panel. Mine's quite cropped. I am expecting it to grow a bit in length with blocking as well. But yeah, so my main color is Barocco Lannis Light in navy. My contrast color, the color changing one, I am again using the Primrose Yarn Co. Heather Sport or Homestead Sport, sorry. But this time I'm using the color Hipster, which you can see is this really pretty like pink and orange and purple and blue and yellow, just kind of soft color changing yarn. And then my fluff is Fiber Spates Surrey, Fiber Spates Cumulus. Do I have the ball band? Okay, I don't have it right now, I'm sorry. It's Fiber Spates, and this is this pretty light blue color. And yeah, I just really love how it's working up. Try and get you a close-up of the color work there. So it started out more pink, and then it's kind of shifting into the more like yellows and blues and oranges. And yeah, I like really got on a roll with this week, and it started finding my rhythm with it. So the body at first is knit in the round, and then for the front panel and back panel, you switch to working flat. And at first I was finding that to be really slow. But once I got in a groove with it, I really started zooming, and I cannot wait to start the back panel now. And then like, it's just the sleeves really. I feel like I made a lot of progress on this in the past couple of weeks. And the fabric is just so plush and nice. So this is available up to a 69-inch bust. I am making size 5, which is a 50-inch bust, which for me is about 6 inches of positive ease, which I think is about what's recommended. So yeah, very excited. I'm gonna start working on the back and just keep plugging away on it. I've seen some really pretty versions popping up on Instagram, so if you're interested, you could check out that hashtag Tesselated Pullover or Vest to see some really pretty other versions. Okay, what's next? Next is my test knit. So I am testing the Chained Oblivion cardigan. I'll put a picture in. The designer is Kelsey Garner. Her Instagram username, I think, is Knitting Nikabi, which I can put that on the screen. They're mostly a yarn dyer. I think they've released some accessory patterns, and I believe this is their first garment pattern. So it's this really cool cardigan. It's mostly seed stitch, but then down the front and on the sleeves are these like chain link cables. And it has these great balloon sleeves, and it has the cuffs with the thumb holes, which I love, so cozy. So yeah, I am testing size E, which is a 51-inch bust. So as I said, that'll be about 7 inches of positive ease on me, as I have a 44-inch bust. It is going to be available up to a 67-inch bust. I am using Cascade 220 because I had some in stash in the color I wanted to use. However, Kelsey is a super tight knitter. A lot of testers have had trouble getting gauge for this. I had to go down a whole needle size to get gauge, and I'm knitting tighter than I normally do, which is not ideal. It is kind of hard on the hands. So, but I'm making through it, and I'm really liking it. I'm cropping the body quite a bit, as I normally do. So I have finished the body. Oh, that seed stitch looks amazing. You can see where I've cast off for the underarms here. It is bottom up construction, and you can see those chain link cables coming into fruition on the front there. So this will look so great once it's blocked, but you can see these really interesting cables starting to pop on the front panel. And it does require 2 cable needles to work these cables. So I had just kind of started getting good at knitting without a cable needle, but this I don't think is one where you could really get away without using the cable needle. So yeah, I really love the texture. I love how it's coming out. At this point, you pause on the body and start on the sleeves. So I am getting ready to start on the sleeves. So you knit the body to the underarm, and then you knit both sleeves to the underarm, combine them, and knit the raglan to the, to the neckline, etc. So it is going to be my first time knitting a bottom-up raglan. So that is something I'm excited to work through. And yeah, even though it is a little hard on my hands, I can't do too many rows a day. It's making a really nice, dense fabric that I think is going to be amazing to wear, and I am enjoying working on it. I'm very excited to start the sleeves, so I'm probably going to start one of those later today. Oh, and I did get my buttons in. So I ordered some buttons from Textile Garden. I ordered these gray clear plastic buttons because I just thought on the dark fabric, I don't know how I can show this to you, that they would look so good. So yeah, you can kind of see the dark of the yarn through the button, but the button itself has like a gray tint as well. I wanted something subtle but still interesting, so I think those are gonna be super nice. If I didn't say, I ordered them from Textile Garden, which is in the UK, but their prices are fairly reasonable for how nice the buttons are, and shipping was not that bad either. I probably ordered more buttons than I needed, to be honest, but I didn't want to have to reorder. So yeah, that is my Chained Oblivion test knit coming right along. It's a really long test knit, which I appreciate. It's not due until like the end of November, so it's really nice to not feel stressed about a test knit and just be able to work on it at my own pace. And like I said, because it is a little bit of a harder gauge on the hands, to not like burn myself out on it. I'm so tempted to apply for a bunch of other test knits right now. I think Sari Nordland has like 3 new ones today, but I'm being strong. I'm trying not to have more than 1 test knit at a time. If I'm gonna do them, I need to just have one at a time because I have so many other projects I wanna work on. Okay, next one. This is just an update on one you've seen before. So I am knitting the Lanark sweater by Rebecca at the Crochet for Troy, and I am using Rowan felted tweed in the color, what color is this? Stone. So it's this kind of greenish gray tan, and it has little flecks of like blue and white. I got this secondhand from a D-stash. And so last time I had finished the collar and the back, now I have also finished the front. It's a little hard to show. But yeah, you can see it's really starting to look like a 1/4 zip sweater. It is all over fisherman's rib, which I really am enjoying, or half brioche, I guess, fisherman's rib. The wrong side is the half brioche and the right side is the fisherman's rib, as far as I know. So you can see where the zipper is going to go in. I just joined to work in the round. So now I just have to knit the body. And you can see that really nice texture. It's very squishy. I love it. Also, I have to show you my new manicure that my sister did. So great as usual. It really matches my next whip, which has been fun. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place today. So yeah, here is the makings of a Lanark sweater. I will, I normally knit all my stuff cropped, so the body is not that big of a deal. However, I'm knitting this for Troy, who has a very long torso and very long arms. So it's probably going to take me a while to get all the body on this done. But now it's just half fisherman's rib in the round forever. So I think that'll be a nice project to just pick up. I'm discovering that it's nice to always have a project, at least one, that only uses one color of yarn, because I feel like right now a lot of my projects have, maybe not right now, but a lot of the times most of my projects have like 2 to 3 either yarns held together or different colors, and it's very nice to just have something like this that it's like, okay, the same stitch over and over again, just the same yarn, it's very easy to pick up and work on, and I appreciate that. So that is my Lanark. It's available up to a 71-inch bust. I'm making size 3 for Troy, which is a 44-inch chest measurement, and he has a 40-inch chest, so that's about 4 inches of positive ease. Okay, the next one is so exciting. I kind of can't believe how much of this okay. You've never seen this whip before, and it's an almost done sweater. So let me tell you the story behind this. So I have been watching the new season of Only Murders in the Building, which if you don't watch, it is like a very delightful, like cozy mystery kind of show, starring Selena Gomez and oh my God, my brain just, Martin Short and Steve Martin. And it's just really, I mean, it's a murder mystery, but it's very funny and quirky and just easy to watch. It feels very fall, and I'm loving that right now. So the new season's on now, and Selena Gomez's character Mabel is a knitter in the show, and she's always wearing these amazing sweaters. You know, of course, they're not hand knit, they're all like designer sweaters. But the implication is that she's knit them in the show. So in the second episode of the new season, season 3, she is wearing this absolutely amazing sweater. I just became immediately obsessed with it. I'm gonna put a picture in of her wearing it next to the actual sweater, which is a Jonathan Simkai sweater. It's from several seasons ago. There was one for resale on Farfetch at the time that the episode came out, which was the only one that I could find for purchase. Not that I was gonna buy it, I just wanted to see more of the details. And that one secondhand was still selling for $400. So, you know, and this designer brand, it's not a sweater I would have been able to buy in my size anyway if it wasn't also out of my price point. So I immediately was like, I have to make this. I have to recreate this. I have to make my own version. So, and I just couldn't get out of my head, like it was keeping me up at night, which is horrible. And I want to say I first saw this like maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't know, 2.5. It was like right before I recorded my last episode. So I started looking like, can I find a similar yarn? Do I have to design this pattern completely from scratch, or is there something that I can base it off of? So I'm here to report that I have almost completely recreated this sweater, and I'm gonna show it to you now. So here's what I have. I did find the yarn. It's not exactly the same, but it is very similar. So here, this is also gonna be hard to show. Maybe I'll stand up. So here it is. All I have to do is the rest of the collar. And the reason it's not already done is because I ran out of yarn. So I am using Noro Silk Garden. The color is number 84. I don't remember if it had an actual name or not. But it's definitely more vibrant than the original, but the colors are very similar. So it has the pinks and the warm reds and the greens. It does have a little more, like it has this touch of black, where the original has more of these like taupey colors. But yeah, so the elements that I loved from this sweater were the color and the texture, but mostly the collar, that big dramatic rib collar. I just fell in love with it. So I'm truly over the moon with how this is turning out. I am really proud of myself, to be honest. This is like my first time improvising a sweater, and I'm really happy with it. So let me start from the beginning. So I found the yarn. I ordered 10 balls of the Noro Silk Garden, and after that I actually was talking to my friend Jess on a Zoom. Hi Jess. And she was like, oh, I showed her the picture of the sweater from the show, and she was like, oh, that looks like the Rhoda jumper. And then that got the wheels spinning. And so I did end up using the Rhoda jumper, which is a pattern by Irene Lynn, which I've knit before, and I already had, as the kind of base for this, as a way to help with the numbers, because it had a lot of the same features. So it had the drop shoulder, and it had the all over texture with the eyelets. So I kind of used that as my jumping off point. However, the Rhoda jumper calls for like 16 inches of positive ease. So when I made it before, I made the size 4 and it is super oversized, which it's supposed to be. However, I wanted this to be much smaller. So I actually based this off of the size 1 for the Rhoda jumper. And I also magically, I got my Noro and I swatched with size US 8 needles, which I think is 5mm. And I got the exact gauge that the Noro, goodness. So I'm so excited, I don't even have my words. I got the same gauge that the Rhoda pattern calls for, the Rhoda jumper calls for. So it kind of worked out perfectly that I could use the numbers from the Rhoda jumper, for the most part, to work as a starting point for this sweater. So the Rhoda, you cast on the back, then you work the front. So the other main change I made was the neckline. So the Rhoda jumper has a really wide neckline, and I knew I wanted this to be much more tight fitting. So I just cast off fewer stitches and made those alterations to the neckline. So you can see my texture is 2x2 rib, and then there's rows of eyelet, and then the rib kind of alternates every other row. So it makes this really nice texture. It has drop shoulder like the original design, and it has a pretty straight sleeve. I didn't do a lot of decreases. I did a couple of decreases, and that is the one thing I'm not sure about. When I finish this, I'm gonna block it and see how I like the sleeve or not. It's one of those things where it's just not what I'm used to. You know, most of the other jumpers I've knit have a fitted sleeve, so it kind of feels weird at first, but I think once it's blocked, it might be fine. And then the collar. So like I said, I've run out of yarn. So I did order more, or else this would be done already. But I have never knit a collar like this before, and I just totally improvised it, and I'm so proud of myself. So you can see I'm maybe like halfway through it. But basically what I did was just pick up my neckline stitches, starting in the middle of the front neck and going around, and instead of joining and working in the round like you would for a rib neckband, I just started working back and forth. And then I'm also increasing along the front edge, just like how the original sweater had. So I'm maybe like halfway through the collar. I want it to be really big and dramatic. Also there you can see the manicure matches the sweater. So yeah, I'm sure you can tell I'm very excited about this. I just think it's gonna be this like crazy, colorful fall sweater. And I'm making, one of my sewing plans for the fall was to make a pair of Nini culottes in this like burgundy linen. And I think this will look so good with that. So yeah, I'm so excited. It's my first time ever doing anything like this, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. It's kind of crazy, I know. Who knows how often I'll actually wear it, but it was just, you know, when you like get that thing in your head and you can't stop thinking about it until you do it, that's how I was with this, and I am obsessed with it. I do want to say a couple things about this yarn, however. So it's my first time using Noro Silk Garden. I've used Noro once before. I used their Kakagori base to make a Tulsta tee over the summer, and I really liked that base a lot. It's very soft. All of their yarns are kind of slubby, they're kind of thick and thin, and that's something that I like. However, I do feel like there are some real like pros and cons with this yarn, and I'm not sure if I would use it again. It's stunning, like the colors are out of this world. I don't mind the way it flows from one color to another. I know some people feel like it's like too abrupt. But I feel like that's kind of the vibe of this yarn. It's more like self-striping almost than like a slow long color change like the Primrose Yarn Co. or Spin Cycle. The yarn itself is very soft. However, a couple things I'm concerned about. One, there is so much VM in this yarn. There are so many pieces of like straw and plastic and like I don't even know what, and they are sharp. Like, you know, occasionally you find a little piece of straw in your yarn and it's not a big deal. It was like, I would knit a row and 4 or 5 times I would be pulling stuff out, and it's not like a little soft piece of grass. It's like very stabby hay. Like when I was done working on this, I would have a little pile of like hay next to me that I had pulled out of the yarn. And so I'm afraid it's going to be super itchy because I'm sure if there's that much stuff in this, I definitely did not get all of it. And I am concerned it's going to be impossible to wear because of that. And that is a complaint I've seen other people make about this yarn as well. It also has a lot of knots in the balls. So occasionally I would get a ball that had no knots in it, but then I would get one that had like 6 knots in it, and they're not super secure. So every time that happened, I would have to break the yarn, spit slice, and, you know, rejoin, which is not that big of a deal, but it's kind of a pain. And it frequently was going from one color to a totally different color. So that interrupts like the color change a little bit. And so I did block my swatch, but I have read that this yarn grows a lot and this sweater is pretty heavy. So here's the swatch that I did when I was just testing out like the stitch pattern. And it's definitely softer and drapier. Like you can see, it's very drapey. So I don't know, I'm just kind of anxious to see. Oh, here's a knot right here. I must have pulled this piece out. There you can see. There's knots like that all over the yarn. So I don't know, I would say my experience with the yarn is mixed. I think visually it looks amazing. I'm a little scared to block it and I'm a little scared to wear it. So who knows, maybe I will have frantically knitted this sweater just for it to live in my closet, but I am very excited about it right now. And I can't wait to finish it. I did order another ball of yarn, so I'm sure as soon as that comes, it will be finished. So exciting. I'm really curious if any of you have ever like tried to duplicate a designer garment like this. I have no plans to release this as a pattern or anything like that. I would not feel like good about that personally. You know, this kind of stuff is like very complicated in the fashion industry, obviously from like high level to indie designers. Like copying is very much a thing. And it's just kind of a fact of the industry. It's not great, but it happens. I am just making this for myself because I could not afford or fit into the original version, and now you can't even find it. As I said, this was a designer sweater from several years ago. So yeah, you know, 99% of the time, knitting your own garments and making your own clothes is more expensive than buying ready-to-wear clothes, but this is one of those times where it was much cheaper for me to make it myself, so that's kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, so okay, I have one more whip that I'm just going to show quickly, and it's crochet. So after I finished my Ariana cardigan, which I think I shared on the last episode, which was a crochet granny square cardigan with like knitted edges, I was really craving some more crochet. I feel like it is so great for like a Sunday night when you don't really have any energy to work on your knitting projects, but you still want to do something with your hands. So I decided to go through my stash and just pull out all of my like smallest little scraps. I'm gonna put a picture in here of my little scrap collection, and I put them in this project bag that I made. This is the ZW Stash Bag by Baguettes. This is the medium size. So yeah, I just chucked them all in there. And I also wanted a marl scrappy project. So I just started randomly pulling balls out and holding them together and making a giant granny square. So here's what I got. I'm sorry, the color is not showing up well because of my lighting today. But yeah, I just decided that I would make a granny square blanket. It's a very tiny blanket right now, but eventually it will be a big blanket. This was one night's work, so it goes fairly quickly. And I'm using a fairly small hook. I think I'm using a 4.5mm hook. But yeah, I just pulled out 2 colors and held them together until one ran out, and then I pulled a different one. And that's how I kind of carried on, just using up all my little scraps, and it is gonna have like a real nice drape and weight to it. It's very soft. There's a mix of leftover sock yarns, I don't know, they're mostly superwash. There's maybe a couple of non-superwash, but they're all either fingering or sport weight, and I'm just holding them together as I go. And this is just going to be a way to use up those little tiny scraps. The color scheme is all kind of like blue and green and pink and purple. I don't know if you can really see all the color there. But yeah, I mean, most of the colors I tend to knit with are in this vein, so they could live fairly harmoniously in here. So, you know, whenever I have scraps to add, I'll add them, but just kind of a long-term crochet project to have for when I need something like that to work on. So it's just a quick, satisfying little thing to pick up and work on. And that's living in this bag. I feel like crochet is really having a moment right now, especially granny squares. Oh, and that reminds me, the trend that I said I was going to touch on was big collars in knitwear, and I meant to talk about that when I was talking about the Mabel, I'm calling it the Mabel sweater, the one that I just showed you that I'm knocking off from the Only Murders in the Building sweater. It has that huge collar, and I feel like knit polo collars like that are something that I'm seeing everywhere. So if you are interested in knitting trends, maybe that's one that you look into. Okay, that's it for whips. I'm gonna pause here for a second and grab my acquisitions and move on to that section. Okay, so I have had a few acquisitions that I wanted to share with you in the past few weeks. The first was obviously the Noro Silk Garden that I used for my Mabel sweater. I'm just gonna be calling it that from now on, I guess. Yeah, so like I said, I bought 10 balls of that, and then I had to buy one more to finish it, and hopefully that one will be here soon. I purchased that from Webs, their online store, which is just like yarn.com, which is amazing. They give you a discount, like the more you buy, the more of a discount you get always, which is kind of nice. Next one I'm really excited about. So I've been wanting to try Nutiden for a super long time. I hear all the other podcasters talking about it, and it just looks amazing, but I'm not a patron of the company that makes it, and I just was finding it like impossible to get my hands on. And then another local knitter was doing a D-stash and had some Nutiden in her D-stash, so I bought it. And it's so beautiful. I just can't stop like petting it right now. So this is the color. Oh, it's very similar to the little quilt here behind me. It is just this beautiful, like dusty rose. It's slightly more purple in real life, and it is just so squishy and nice. It weighs like nothing. It smells amazing. And I'm really excited to try it. So you can see it's this unspun pencil roving. And it's just this super thin, like, yeah, pencil roving. I don't know how else to describe it. But so I have 2 plates of it, which is not a ton. My plan is to find some mohair or suri in a similar color or a slightly darker color to hold with it, so I don't have to hold this double, and then try and knit a ranunculus. I've never made a ranunculus, and I've seen some made in Nutiden that are really beautiful, and I know it doesn't require a ton of yarn, so that is what I'm gonna try to do. So I've got some like yarny events coming up. I'm going to a little local yarn festival in a couple of weeks, and then Troy and I are going out for a week to the West Coast, and I'm going to be visiting some really exciting yarn stores out there. So that is one of the things on my list to look for, is something fluffy to hold with this, and then hopefully knit up a ranunculus. I also subscribed, so a local dyer and yarn store here is called Dye Mad Yarns. They do a monthly skein society. It's called Chester Skein Society. You can opt in or opt out on a monthly basis. So they announced that their August theme was going to be moths. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And the pictures were like the rosy maple moth, which is that cute little like pink and yellow guy. They had some of the Lune moth, which is like the green one. And I was just like, oh yes, I'm gonna do this like mystery skein of sock yarn. And it came. And it is very pretty, but it is not what I was hoping for, unfortunately. So here it is. It's inspired by the Cecropia moth, which is like a more red and brown moth. It's like a fall moth, which is really cool. But these are not any of the colors that were on their mood board. So that was a little bit of a bummer. However, it hilariously is kind of Ohio State colors, which is like our local football team. So I might end up knitting these into socks for like my dad or one of the gentlemen in my life who is a big sports fan, or maybe just for Troy. I haven't decided yet. It is really beautiful. It's these like reds and kind of corals and orange with these like gray speckles. Just not quite what I envisioned, which is a lesson to me about why I should not buy mystery yarns, because you never know what you're gonna get, and that's the whole point. It's just maybe not something I should invest in the future. Note to self. I say as I already bought an advent calendar for this year, but whatever. It'll be great. Okay, last one is the newest edition of Pom Pom magazine, and I'm sorry, I'm losing the light, so I'll get on with it here. So this is a guest editor edition. It was edited by Candace English, who owns Farmer's Daughter Fibers. I've not worked with their yarns yet, but I hope to at some point. It's a really beautiful issue. I'll show you quickly some of the patterns that I'm interested in. So there are these Starflight socks, which have this really cool like quilting inspired pattern. The Chinook Winds pullover, which is this one with the fringe. I feel like I was seeing this all over Instagram. Very, very pretty. I don't know, how do we feel about yarn fringe on a sweater? Because I think it looks good in the photos, but I feel like I'm not sure how it would wear over time. I don't know, what do you all think about that? Okay, the one I'm really interested in is Prairie Skies pullover, which similar to, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this, similar to the Ariana, it's a mix of crochet and knitting. So this part is all crochet squares and then the body is knit. And I just think that is so pretty. Yeah, it's a bit of a longer style. It has a little split hem, but if I knit this, I might make the split hem more dramatic, like coming up to the waist. I'm really interested in that one. That might have to go to the top of my queue. And then lastly are the Badger Creek mitts by Tin Can Knits. Just really cute, classic mitten pattern with the honeycomb cable. Really like those. Like I said, it's a beautiful issue. There's some really nice articles. Definitely enjoyed that. And the very last thing I was going to touch on today was my knitting independent study that I have made for myself and I've been talking about in the past episode or two. I did start working on this. The first, like, what's the word I'm looking for? The first, like, theme that I'm doing. The first thing I'm trying to learn more about is steeking. So I'm not gonna lie, I have not worked on this very much, but I did start knitting a swatch for steeking practice. So I am holding this really rustic wool double just to try and use it up out of my stash. And this is like a real thick and chunky swatch. So you can see there's like some color work and then there will be a steek here and a steek here. So this will end up being two separate pieces. And then I will have 4 different steeked edges to practice all the finishing techniques on. So I need to finish up and just like knit the rest of this swatch. And then I think I will also do, so yeah, this is really rustic, sticky wool on, you know, thicker. And then I want to do a second one that's like fingering weight superwash, and just see how they work differently, because the whole point of this is to experiment and try new things. And I will report back when I have more to show. But yeah, that is it. I've been working on my independent study stuff. Like I said, I've been knitting a lot. I'm just really feeling all of my projects right now. I feel like I have a lot of garments that I'm kind of in the middle of, and I have a feeling they might kind of all get finished at the same time. But there's a bunch of other stuff I'm really eager to cast on and excited about. what's coming up. So yeah, I'll be finishing the summer sock knit along next month. I also, Siri Kate on Instagram every year, the past few years, has hosted a great vest knit along in the month of September. So I'm probably going to be casting on a vest. I am looking at the Laura vest, I think it's called, by Irene Lynn. I'll put a picture in. I have yarn for this in a cream color that I'm probably going to cast on for that knit along. And then I feel like the big one is the Stephen West mystery shawl knit along. I have never participated in this before. I have never knit any of Stephen's patterns. I know there's like so much hype around him and his designs. I am tempted to do this year because I'm curious to learn new techniques, and I feel like he always does interesting things, but mostly because my local knit night all want to knit it together, and I would like to be a part of that because that seems fun. So that, I think the actual knit along is in October, and that would mean that I want to have my Cinnabar shawl finished before that starts because I don't want to have 2 active shawl whips. So I'm gonna be really trying to finish my Cinnabar soon. I didn't show it today, but I have showed it in the past few episodes. I've just kind of been working on it in the background, but I'd really like to finish that up before October if I want to do the mystery knit along. So yeah, lots of exciting things on the horizon. I also have a gift knit that I need to start for my sister for Christmas soon. That's a garment. So lots coming up. I need to finish getting through this stuff so I can move on to the next things. There's always going to be 10,000 other things we want to knit, right? But yeah, I do have some travel coming up. So Troy and I are taking 2 weeks off of work in September, and one of those weeks we're going to be traveling out to the West Coast to visit some family. So I'm going to have some long flights, a lot of driving time. So yeah, I'll have to figure out what I'm going to take on that trip. Aside from my little COVID scare last week, everything is good, work is good, life is good, and yeah, it's really just beginning to feel like fall. I say that, and of course this weekend it's going to be 90 degrees here again, but today it was only 53 when I woke up, and that feels like fall. So it's coming soon. It's officially knitting season, let's just say that. So thank you so much for watching. If you are new here, welcome, and thank you for making it all the way through the video. Please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, just so you can get notifications when there's a new video. And please like the video if you liked the video. I will see you all in a couple of weeks, and thank you again for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.